Commander Ithrek stood on the bridge of the battlecruiser Radiance, gazing out through the reinforced viewport at the swirling blue-green planet known to its inhabitants as Earth. He had expected an effortless conquest. The intelligence reports had depicted a race barely capable of sustained interplanetary travel, a chaotic civilization prone to internal conflict and environmental mismanagement. It seemed the ideal target for an unchallenged annexation by the Vastari Imperium. Yet, only hours before, he had received word that one of the Imperium's forward assault fleets had been decimated, lost in a sudden, brutal engagement that the analysts insisted should have been impossible for humans to orchestrate. Ithrek's mind whirled with disbelief and anger. They had seen so many worlds bend the knee to the Imperium without a fight. Why would humanity prove different? He resisted the urge to pace, though his species' predatory instincts made his muscles coil with restless tension. Instead, he folded his forearms behind him, adopting the posture of rigid composure that his crew expected from a Vastari commander. A beep sounded at his shoulder. Lieutenant Tren, a communications officer with polished copper scales and anxious eyes, stepped forward. "Commander," Tren said, lowering her gaze out of respect, "we have received a distress call from the forward contingent. Their last transmission indicated they were overwhelmed by human ships that didn't match any known configurations." "How was that possible?" Ithrek snapped. His voice, filtered through a translator device, remained guttural. "The briefing told us humanity had only just managed to set foot on their own moon a few centuries ago. Their ships should be outdated and slow." "It appears that was true. Once," Tren replied. "But something changed. The humans have apparently accelerated their technology, or at least repurposed civilian vessels in ways we did not foresee. The assault group reported advanced energy discharges and near-instant directional changes, as if inertia itself was being manipulated." Ithrek narrowed his piercing black eyes. "I want a full report. Send an immediate directive to intelligence." "They must explain this." From across the bridge, a figure in a sleek uniform glided forward. Sarah Rao, one of the Imperium's top analysts, inclined her head. Her voice was calm, almost unnervingly so. "I already have the preliminary data, Commander. I was studying the black box recordings from the destroyed fleet. What we see is a demonstration of extreme human adaptability. They appear to have taken basic research in gravitational manipulation, originally intended for asteroid mining, and converted it into a weapon. Our dreadnoughts lost structural integrity, as if something was ripping them apart from within." Ithrek exhaled slowly. "How many ships did we lose?" "The entire forward assault group," Rao said, her quiet tone a stark contrast to the magnitude of her words. 3 heavy cruisers, 8 frigates, and nearly 40 fighters. All destroyed in less than an hour. It's a catastrophic blow to the Imperium's prestige." A hush fell across the bridge. Ithrek's stomach twisted. The Imperium prided itself on its near-invincible armada, undefeated across dozens of campaigns. Humanity was supposed to be a formality. He cast his gaze toward the planet rotating below. It looked peaceful from orbit, its swirling clouds and sparkling seas concealing the flurry of defensive preparations taking place on the surface. He tore himself away from the viewport. "Very well," he said quietly. "We will proceed more carefully. Let us regroup," and an alert flashed at Tren's station. She pressed a series of buttons with trembling claws. "Commander, the humans are broadcasting on all frequencies. They have singled out our ship by name. They have a message for you personally." Ithrek's mandibles clenched. "Put it through." A new voice echoed across the Radiance's bridge. It was a woman's voice, measured and resolute. "Commander Ithrek of the Vastari Imperium," she said, each syllable crisp. "We are the United Earth Coalition. Your unprovoked attack on our outlying colony has forced us to respond. We have no interest in war, but we will not hesitate to defend ourselves. This is Earth's final warning. Stop attacking, or we stop pretending to be civilized." That last phrase made Ithrek's scales tingle. There was something chilling about its calm certainty. Around him, the bridge erupted in hushed murmurs as the alien statement concluded. Lieutenant Tren looked at him. Shall I respond, sir? Ithrek hesitated. The Imperium's standard doctrine dictated a show of overwhelming force. Yet the caution in him, nurtured by the new data, urged restraint. He glanced at Sarah Rao, seeking her opinion, but her expression remained neutral. No, Ithrek said after a moment. We will not answer the bravado. We will let them see our next move. Despite the confidence in his words, he felt his heart's pounding. The phrase, stop attacking, or we stop pretending to be civilized, echoed in his mind. No species had ever threatened the Imperium with such unwavering boldness. Certainly not a race that was, by all accounts, centuries behind in advanced weaponry. Yet everything he'd heard from the front lines told him these humans were prepared to fight with ferocity. And something else, something intangible that reminded Ithrek of cunning predators cornered in a trap. He stepped away from the communications console, set a course to rendezvous with the main Imperium fleet. We're not going to underestimate these humans any longer. Let them keep their posturing until the bulk of our dreadnoughts arrive. The crew set to their tasks, and the Radiants began to shift from Earth's orbit. Ithrek knew the humans would try to track them, but that was expected. He needed time to confer with the Imperium's High Council and request reinforcements. The humiliation of losing a forward assault group gnawed at him. On the far side of the bridge, Sarah Rao tapped into a data terminal. Ithrek could see the reflected images dance across her black, pupilless eyes. He wondered if she, like him, sensed that this encounter was different from all their prior conquests. Humanity's message, loaded with quiet menace, was not the sort of empty threat typical of unprepared worlds. It was almost a promise that if forced, humans would escalate beyond anything the Imperium had imagined. The warship's engines hummed, carrying them away from Earth at faster-than-light speeds. Ithrek retreated to his private quarters to review the data. The Imperium's intelligence had missed something critical about humanity's capacity for technological repurposing. Perhaps it was the result of the humans' tumultuous history. They had apparently warred with themselves for millennia, advancing weaponry in unpredictable bursts whenever new conflicts arose. Now, that capacity seemed turned outward, and Ithrek couldn't help but feel a twinge of dread at the possibility of an adversary that thrived on crisis. He tried to shake off the gloom. The Imperium was vast, with thousands of warships and centuries of military tradition. They would not be bested by a single planet, no matter how inventive. Still, he couldn't forget the images from the black box recordings. Massive Imperium cruisers twisting and rupturing in a matter of seconds, hammered by forces they had not been designed to handle. If that was a taste of human ingenuity under pressure, Ithrek wondered what would happen if Earth truly decided to stop pretending to be civilized. Hours later, the Radiants met up with 3 Imperium carriers waiting in a safer region of space. Commander Ithrek joined a holographic conference with the Imperial High Council, whose members arrayed themselves in a semicircle, each one representing a province or major clan of the Vastari race. They wore ceremonial robes, their scaled heads crowned with ornamental crests that denoted authority. Elder Vasru, the most senior council member, spoke first. Commander Ithrek, we have received your reports. They are troubling. Are we to believe that our fleet was destroyed by an inferior species known for internal strife and limited technology? Ithrek bowed slightly in the hologram's field of vision. Elder, it appears so. Yet the humans have found ways to adapt technology for warfare at a rate we did not anticipate. You speak as though you admire their resourcefulness, remarked Counselor Erelon, a female with bright orange scales. This is a direct insult to our pride. The Imperium cannot allow such a slight. We must respond with overwhelming power. There were murmurs of agreement among the council. Ithrek felt their prideful anger swirling. Yes, counselors, I agree that a show of force is necessary. But I would caution that we do not simply rush in blindly. I recommend a phased approach. Assemble a sizable fleet, deploy reconnaissance drones to gauge their new defenses, and then strike with precision. Counselor Neff smacked the arm of his chair. Nonsense. We should burn their planet to ash before they can mount a counteroffensive. Send 1,000 ships, flatten them in a single engagement. Let the galaxy see that we do not tolerate defiance. Elder Vasru raised a hand. Patience, Counselor Neth. Commander Ithrek, have the humans made any overtures for peace? Or do they simply threaten us with that cryptic warning? They demanded that we cease our attacks and claimed they would respond in kind, Ithrek explained. Their exact words, stop attacking or we stop pretending to be civilized. I find it more than a threat. It might be an invitation for diplomacy, albeit laced with menace. The council exchanged looks. Pride and practicality collided in an unspoken tension. After several seconds, Elder Vasru inclined his head. We do not negotiate with lesser species, but we cannot ignore the loss of the forward group. The Imperium's reputation is at stake. Commander Ithrek, you may assemble an expanded fleet. Crush their defenses. If they offer surrender, you may discuss terms, but under no circumstances shall we withdraw. Is that understood? Yes, Elder. I will assemble the necessary ships at once. The holographic meeting ended abruptly, leaving Ithrek alone with the heavy weight of responsibility. He exhaled and muttered a quiet oath in the Vastari tongue. No matter how uneasy he felt, disobeying the council would be unthinkable. He could only hope that a well-coordinated assault would end the conflict swiftly before humanity escalated it into something catastrophic for both sides. He returned to the Radiance's main deck, where Sarah Rao was waiting. I am authorized to mobilize a larger fleet, Ithrek told her, but we have to do this carefully. I'm ordering reconnaissance drones to Earth and the surrounding colonies. Rao nodded. We should examine how quickly the humans are deploying new defenses. I suspect they're already reinforcing their orbital platforms. Ithrek gazed at the star field on the central display. We must not let them catch us off guard again. Under his directives, the combined Imperium carriers and cruisers jumped to a staging area near the edge of the Sol system, placing them out of immediate retaliation range. From there, swarms of stealth drones launched forth, each equipped with advanced cloaking capabilities that the Imperium believed would go undetected by human sensors. Ithrek watched the data stream in real time. He saw images of newly erected orbital cannons, apparently built from converted mining lasers. He noticed swaths of Earth's industrial sectors repurposed to churn out war materials. Factories that once manufactured mundane goods now produced hull plating for retrofitted space vessels. Satellites bristled with fresh weapon mounts that seemed beyond humanity's pre-war capacity. One drone captured footage of dozens of human ships practicing maneuvers around Mars's orbit. They resembled commercial freighters, yet the cargo holds had been replaced with complicated arrays that ion scans suggested were advanced weapon systems. Sarah Ralph's voice sounded behind Ithrek. It's as we feared. They have rearranged their entire infrastructure for war. Look at this cluster near their lunar base. It's teeming with construction activity. They're building a new class of warships right now. Ithrek studied the feed grimly. They're unpredictable. They'll transform anything into a weapon. If we strike too slowly, they'll surpass us in localized advantage. If we strike rashly, we'll lose ships. The Council wants a decisive blow, but I see a potential quagmire. He flagged a cluster of blinking red signatures from one of the drones. Those are not just satellites. They're building what appear to be massive kinetic rails, possibly for launching rods or projectiles at near-relativistic speeds. If they aim that at our fleet, Ralph finished his sentence. They could take out dozens of ships before we even realize what hit us. One of the drone feeds went dark. Ithrek clenched his fists. They found our cloak. Another feed vanished, then another. The humans were systematically sweeping the system, detecting even advanced Imperium stealth technology. Ithrek dreaded what that implied. Either humanity had developed extremely sensitive scanning arrays, or they had acquired alien technology from some unknown source. Either scenario was disconcerting. He exchanged glances with Rao. In prior conquests, stealth drones would have remained invisible for weeks, systematically mapping enemy assets. Here, they were eliminated in a matter of hours. A wave of murmurs passed through the Radiance's bridge as data feeds winked out one by one. "Commander," came a voice from the navigation console. "We've confirmed that none of our remaining drones can transmit from Earth's immediate vicinity. They're being jammed or destroyed." Ithrek forced himself to remain calm. "Then we move to Phase 2. Prepare the fleet for an organized incursion, but we will do so in increments. The humans cannot be allowed to complete that new array around the moon. If they finish those cannons, it will compromise our entire assault." The plan, though more cautious than standard Imperium doctrine, involves sending a smaller, more agile task force ahead to sabotage the humans' orbital builds, followed by the main fleet. The procedure was meant to keep the humans guessing, preventing them from focusing all firepower on a single wave. Some of the officers and subcommanders balked at this approach, insisting that the Imperium's tradition demanded a massive, overwhelming strike, but Ithrek held firm. Pride was worthless if it led to a catastrophic defeat. Despite his strategic planning, Ithrek couldn't shake the memory of that broadcast. Earth's final warning had not asked for negotiations or peace explicitly. It simply told them to stop attacking or face the truly unrestrained might of humanity. For a moment, he wondered what an unrestrained humanity might look like, something beyond improvised weapons. He recalled how one of his subordinates once referred to humanity as the species that nearly destroyed itself multiple times. It was a chilling notion that they had stared into their own annihilation, yet always pulled back at the last second, emerging stronger and more capable of waging warfare. Reports came back from the sabotage team. The early infiltration mission was partially successful. Several key structures were destroyed around the lunar base, but the humans retaliated with unnerving speed, deploying agile fighters that outmaneuvered the Imperium raiders. The sabotage team lost half its ships. The survivors limped back to Ithrek's staging area, confirming the thoroughness of Earth's vigilance. Ithrek reviewed footage from the mission. He saw the sleek silhouettes of what had once been cargo transports weaving through Imperium fighter formations. Electricity danced along their hulls, interfering with the Imperium's targeting systems. Those previously docile vessels hammered the raiders with beams that caused dissonant vibrations, shattering engines in seconds. The final transmissions from the sabotage team confirmed that these weapons were new prototypes, seemingly constructed out of scientific research labs, not military factories. It was yet another reminder that humanity's unpredictability might outpace any conventional tactics. "All hands," Ithrek announced over the ship-wide channel. "We begin our main assault in 2 hours. Prepare for the largest deployment we have ever undertaken in this sector. The Imperium's honor is at stake." In the following hour, the staging area grew crowded with Imperium ships arriving from faster-than-light lanes. Sleek cruisers, heavily armed frigates, and monstrous dreadnoughts joined the Radiance. Ithrek's heart pounded at the sight. Over 300 warships, each bristling with weaponry that had conquered a dozen civilizations in the past century. They dwarfed Earth in raw scale and presumably in destructive capability. This, Ithrek thought, should be enough to force humanity's surrender. He could almost see the end of the conflict in his mind's eye. A battered Earth, forced to kneel, paying tribute in perpetuity. But one question remained. Would the humans fold before it came to utter annihilation? He dreaded the possibility that they would not. At the appointed hour, the Imperium fleet advanced on the Sol system in formation. The forward vanguard engaged the first line of human defensive satellites, disabling or destroying them with efficient blasts of plasma cannons. A part of Ithrek felt a surge of triumph. So far, so good. The humans had not found a way to negate the Imperium's heavier weaponry. The wave progressed deeper, drawing closer to Earth's orbit. Explosions dotted the blackness of space as more satellites went offline. Then, as the Imperium's main group entered what analysts had termed the kill zone, everything changed. Human vessels emerged from the shadows of planetary bodies, from behind asteroids and refitted orbital stations. They attacked in small, nimble packs, each group targeting a dreadnought or carrier. It became chaos. The Imperium's capital ships tried to maintain formation and concentrate fire, but the human ships moved unpredictably, weaving around salvos, using micro-jumps or advanced thrusters that confused the Imperium's targeting computers. The mighty dreadnoughts were battered from multiple angles. Many found themselves reeling under repeated hits that bypassed shields entirely. Ithrek watched in horror as a battleship designated Valiant collapsed in on itself, a victim of the same gravitational manipulation that had doomed the First Fleet. Still, the Imperium pressed on. Their sheer numbers took a toll on the humans. Explosions blossomed where Earth's smaller craft ventured too close to concentrated plasma bursts. At times, the Imperium forces linked up to create overlapping fields of fire. Several human vessels disintegrated under the barrage. For a moment, Ithrek believed they could still secure a victory by attrition. The Imperium simply had more ships than the humans could handle. A fierce close-range dogfight erupted above Earth's northern hemisphere. Ithrek's breath caught when he saw that many of the human ships were, in fact, civilian vessels that had been refitted. They should have been no match for Imperium warships, yet their modifications exploited weaknesses the Imperium had never before needed to address. Some carried beams that disrupted the nuclear reactions powering Imperium drives. Others flung high-velocity projectiles that punched holes in hull plating. The Imperium was hemorrhaging ships at a rate unthinkable against a single planet. Across the Radiance's communications feed came panic calls. We've lost half. Our starboard guns. Enemy flanking maneuver. Our shields are failing. The flagship Dawn's honor has been breached. Ithrek's crew struggled to maintain order, but it was clear the assault was going badly. A sudden tremor rattled the Radiance. Ithrek braced himself. Report. One of the tactical officers scanned her console. Commander, we've taken a direct hit from an unknown energy beam. Forward shields are down 15%. A second hit of that caliber could compromise the hull. Evasive maneuvers, Ithrek barked. Coordinate with the flagship. Tell them to converge fire on the largest human vessels. But the largest human ships didn't behave like any capital ships the Imperium had faced. They were not slow or easy to corner. They darted across the battlefield, launching localized gravity pulses that shoved Imperium cruisers off course. Dozens of Imperium craft floated aimlessly, their systems scrambled by electromagnetic surges. Ithrek ground his mandibles. This was a losing proposition. An urgent voice sliced through the chaos. Commander Ithrek, came Sarah Rao from the communications hub. We've intercepted a broad-spectrum transmission from Earth. They're offering one more chance to stand down. If we continue, they swear to end this war in a manner we cannot comprehend. Those are their words. Ithrek felt a swell of fury at the arrogance. Yet, beneath that fury lay genuine fear. Every piece of data he had gathered suggested the humans still had more to reveal. The older Imperium tradition in him roared that no lesser race could be so powerful. The rational part of his mind reminded him that half their offensive fleet was now crippled. It was madness to continue. He pressed trembling claws against the command console. "Patch me through," he said quietly. "I will speak to them." A new window opened on the main viewport, showing a woman's face. Her dark hair was cropped short, and her eyes held a determination that Ithrek recognized, predatory and calm. "I am Dr. Amina Eddington," she said. "You are Commander Ithrek of the Vastari Imperium?" "Yes," Ithrek replied stiffly. She inclined her head. "Commander, we did not invite this conflict, but you have forced our hand. As we speak, your ships are burning, and so are ours. The longer this continues, the more death on both sides." Ithrek could see the reflection of fires in her pupils, perhaps from a console on her side. "The Imperium will not," he began, but she cut him off. "I am authorized by the United Earth Council to offer a ceasefire. Withdraw your fleets from our solar system immediately, or we will deploy specialized weaponry we have reserved for existential threats. Trust me, Commander, you do not wish to see us use it." He clenched his jaw. On the battlefield below, capital ships from both sides were engaged in a deadly dance. The Radiants trembled under another hit. "If you had these weapons, why haven't you used them already?" he challenged. She gave him a tight smile. "Because we prefer to remain civilized. We learn painful lessons from our own history. We restrain ourselves whenever possible. But if you push us further," her expression hardened, "well, you see how effective our provisional defenses have been. Imagine what our actual war machines could do." A bitter realization sank into Ithrek's gut. The Imperium had never encountered an enemy like this, one that waged war reluctantly, yet so ruthlessly when provoked. He swallowed his pride. "My superiors will not accept a retreat," he admitted. "They will see it as a humiliation." Her voice softened, just a fraction. "Then you must convince them that humiliation is preferable to extinction." Before Ithrek could answer, the Radiants shook violently. Crew members shouted about a direct hull breach on one of the lower decks. The camera feed from Eddington's side flickered. She frowned. "You're taking heavy damage. Save your people, Commander. Order a withdrawal, and let us open diplomatic channels." The feed cut out before he could respond. Ithrek glanced around the bridge. The casualties were mounting. Some ships had already begun to pull back, disobeying the Council's edict. The Imperium's chain of command was unraveling. Ithrek gripped the console. He could see no other way. With a deep breath, he issued the order. "All Imperium vessels, disengage. Fall back to coordinates Bravo 5. Disengage and regroup outside the system." Some captains, emboldened by the possibility of survival, obeyed at once. Others resisted, claiming they had to uphold the Imperium's honor. But those who hesitated were destroyed by unrelenting human attacks. Soon, the battered remains of the invasion force retreated under heavy fire, limping away. The humans did not pursue beyond a certain perimeter. They had effectively drawn a line around their solar system. In the hours that followed, Ithrek convened a crisis meeting with as many surviving Imperium captains as could attend. The mood was grim. They had lost a third of the total fleet, with countless others crippled. Commander Ithrek felt a heavy weight on his shoulders as he prepared a report for the High Council. They would be furious, but he hoped to show them enough evidence to force a diplomatic approach. He now believed wholeheartedly that continuing this war would doom the Imperium. He and Sarah Rao composed a data packet, including sensor logs of the battle, recordings of a human threat, and analyses of the horrifying potential for further escalation. Then they waited as the Council convened an emergency session. Hours later, a brief message arrived, summoning Ithrek and Rao to the Imperium's capital world to explain themselves in person. Arranging the jump was a complicated process, given the war damage. Once the Radiants limped into orbit above the capital, Ithrek and Rao took a shuttle to the surface, landing at the Grand Citadel. The architecture always impressed outsiders. Monumental spires, vast hallways, intricate carvings extolling the Imperium's conquests. Now, each carving felt like a silent reproach. Ithrek could almost hear the Council saying, "You let us down. You shamed the Imperium." They stood in the Council chamber, a circular hall with 9 thrones arranged on a raised dais. The councilors glowered down at them. All wore sumptuous robes and ornate crests. Councilor Erelon stood, stepping forward. "Commander Ithrek," she said coldly, "you have much to answer for. You led our greatest fleet to ruin against a species that was supposed to be inferior, and you ordered a retreat against explicit directives." He bowed, fighting the urge to defend himself too harshly. "Counselors, if I had not ordered the retreat, none of our ships would have survived. The humans possessed weaponry and tactics we could not counter. We misjudged their capabilities." Counselor Neff rose, slamming his staff against the polished floor. "Then we launch a second offensive with double or triple the ships. We cannot let this insult stand." Sarah Rao spoke up. "With all respect, Counselor, throwing more ships at them may only magnify our losses. Their capacity for rapid adaptation is unlike anything we've seen. They repurpose civilian technology into lethal weapons in days. Neth scoffed. Ridiculous. No species can outrun the Imperium's might. Elder Vasru raised a wrinkled hand. We all saw the recordings. Something is indeed unusual about humanity. Our intelligence suggests they have mobilized at a staggering rate. Their industrial complexes are reconfigured for war. Despite their smaller territory, they appear to surpass us in the agility of production. Eralan's eyes narrowed at Sarah Rao. What do you suggest, then? Surrender? Rao hesitated. Not surrender, but a negotiated settlement. The humans offered a ceasefire. If we respect their boundaries, they may do the same. Counselor Neth spat. We have never retreated in our entire history. Elder Vasru looked at Ithrek, his ancient gaze penetrating. Commander, did the humans say what would happen if we persist in attacking? Ithrek nodded. Yes, Elder. They threatened to abandon their self-imposed restraints. I believe them. They've shown only improvised defenses so far, yet that alone devastated us. The council erupted in murmurs. Before further debate could erupt, a messenger rushed in, carrying a portable hollow projector. Counselors, we have an incoming message from the humans. It appears to be addressed to the Imperium's High Council. Will you receive it? Vasra motioned for silence, then nodded. The messenger activated the projector. A life-sized image of Dr. Amina Eddington shimmered into view. Ithrek noticed a weariness in her face. Leaders of the Vastari Imperium, she began, I speak on behalf of the United Earth Coalition. We regret the bloodshed in our recent conflict. Many lives were lost on both sides. Yet we must make our stance clear. If you continue to attack, we will respond with overwhelming force. You have witnessed only a fraction of what we can do. Despite what your pride may tell you, there is no glory in mutual destruction. She paused, letting her words sink in. However, we offer you a chance at peace. Withdraw your fleets from our space. End your aggression. In return, we will allow trade and dialogue if you wish. Humanity does not desire endless war, but we will defend ourselves, and we will prevail if forced. The transmission ended. The projector flickered off, leaving the council chamber in tense silence. Finally, Elder Vasru addressed Ithrek again. This is a moment unlike any we have faced. The Imperium's entire philosophy is built upon conquest and expansion, yet we now face a foe who can, and will, inflict unbearable losses upon us. Eralan's face contorted with anger. We cannot bow to them, nor can we risk extinction, countered Vasru. He surveyed the others. We do have other concerns. Intelligence from the fringes of our territory indicates that a separate power, the Zen Dominion, is mobilizing. They have subjugated or destroyed multiple species, leaving no survivors. If we deplete our forces battling the humans, we may be left vulnerable to the Zen. Or, if we are weakened, the humans themselves could conquer us. An uneasy hush fell. Ithrek exchanged a glance with Sarah Rao. The mention of the Zen Dominion was chilling. It was a rumored threat the Imperium had never taken seriously. But now, with half the fleet in tatters, everything seemed precarious. This is what I propose, Elder Vasru said. Commander Ithrek, you will return to the border of human space as an envoy. Carry our apologies for the unprovoked attack, although that very word leaves a sour taste in my mouth. Attempt to open negotiations. If the humans remain hostile, we will prepare to defend ourselves. But if they're willing to talk, do whatever it takes to forge a truce. Counselor Neth bristled. You would entrust the Imperium's future to a man who just failed us. Ithrek's throat tightened. Vasru turned to him. That is precisely why he is the right one. He has seen the humans in battle. He knows what they can do, and we cannot afford another fiasco. With that, Ithrek bowed deeply. I will not fail again, Elder. The meeting adjourned. Though the council was divided, Vasru's directive carried the greatest weight. Ithrek headed out of the chamber, trailing Sarah Rao. She gave him a tiny nod of encouragement. We have a chance. Let's make the most of it. They returned to the Radiance, which had undergone partial repairs. A small fleet of diplomatic escorts stood ready to accompany them. The entire Imperium watched in uneasy anticipation as Ithrek's envoy group departed, heading once more toward Earth's domain. This time, their weapons were set to minimal power. Their hulls bore no fresh insignias of war, and they carried a carefully prepared set of proposals for an armistice, possibly even a future alliance, if that could be negotiated. Hours into the journey, Ithrek convened a staff meeting to plan their approach. "We must tread carefully," he told them. "Humans are suspicious, and rightly so, given our attack. Our gestures must be genuine." An officer asked, "What if they refuse to talk?" Ithrek pressed his upper hands together. "Then we leave peacefully. The council has made it clear we cannot risk another all-out fight." He and Sarah Rao compiled all relevant data on Earth's culture, gleaned from what remained of the Imperium's intelligence. Rao highlighted aspects of human history, how quickly they pivoted from war to cooperation, how they valued individual freedoms, yet could unite ferociously against external threats. She explained that forging trust with them would require honesty about the Imperium's intentions. Once they arrived at the designated coordinates, a neutral zone near the edge of the Sol system, the human response was swift. A dark-hulled vessel emerged from behind a small moon. It bore no obvious military markings, but Ithrek recognized it as potentially lethal, given the intense energy readings. A calm voice transmitted across open comms. "Vastari Envoy, you have entered Earth's frontier. State your purpose." Ithrek inhaled. "I am Commander Ithrek of the Vastari Imperium, here under directive from the High Council to negotiate peace. We come unarmed, save for minimal defensive systems." A pause followed. Then the human voice said, "Very well. We have received your request. Prepare to dock with our diplomatic ship for further discussions." A hush fell over Ithrek's bridge crew. They were entering the lair of a species who had bested them in open conflict only days ago. Yet this was the moment of truth. Ithrek and Sarah Rao boarded a small shuttle and made their way to the awaiting human vessel. The docking procedure was smooth, though tense. Ithrek's hearts drummed as the airlock cycled open. Inside, they were greeted by a small delegation of humans. At the center stood Dr. Amina Eddington, flanked by two uniformed officers. Ithrek noted the crisp lines of their attire and the subtle presence of sidearms. Despite the polite smiles, he sensed readiness. Dr. Eddington spoke first. "Commander Ithrek, welcome. It's good to see you approach under peaceful terms. This is Colonel Jason Holt, and this is Minister Nadine Uzoma." Ithrek tried to straighten his posture, copying a human manner of politeness. "I come representing the Imperium's desire to end hostilities. We deeply regret the losses on both sides. Our intelligence regarding your species was incomplete." One of her eyebrows arched. "Yes, I'd say it was. And now we understand you are far more capable than we believed," Ithrek said carefully. "We wish to negotiate a settlement." Colonel Holt's mouth twitched. "Settlement? This was an unprovoked attack on our homes. We won't just shrug that off." Ithrek bobbed his head. "Understand. We are willing to make reparations, or discuss terms that might satisfy your people." A calm signal interrupted them. Eddington held up a hand and answered, listening intently. When she ended the call, her face had gone grim. "I've just received word from one of our deep space arrays. We detected a massive mobilization of an alien fleet beyond your territory. Some entity known as the Zen Dominion." Ithrek exchanged a quick glance with Sarah Rao. The Imperium had suspected the Zen's approach, but to hear it confirmed by the humans was sobering. Eddington continued, "Colonel Holt, Minister Uzoma, and I have been briefed on the Zen threat. If our data is correct, they make no distinction between Earth, the Vastari Imperium, or any other organic life. They consume or destroy everything in their path." Minister Uzoma folded her arms. "Commander, if you truly seek peace, consider the bigger picture. The Zen will pose a threat to us all. Earth alone can't stop them, and neither can the Imperium, especially not after our recent battle. But together we might stand a chance." A pulse of conflicting emotions rippled through Ithrek. If Earth and the Imperium joined forces, it would be unprecedented. He wrestled with the ingrained pride of his people, But he also recalled how the humans had staved off the Imperium's might. That decision is not mine alone, he admitted. The Council would balk at the idea of an alliance with a species they nearly destroyed. And your people, why would you trust us after we attack first? The corner of Dr. Eddington's mouth curved into a wry half-smile. Because the alternative might be extinction for both sides. Humanity understands that sometimes cooperation is the only logical path. We've learned that lesson the hard way in our own internal wars. Colonel Holt's gaze bored into HFY's. We can't forget your aggression, but we could try to move forward. The question is, will the Imperium see reason, or will it cling to pride until the Zen wipe out every last one of us? That question hung in the air. HFY glanced at Sarah Rowell, who gave him a subtle nod. I can request an immediate channel to the Council, HFY said. I can present them with the data on the Zen threat and the possibility of joining forces with Earth. Eddington's posture relaxed slightly. We will do the same with our governing bodies. If both sides agree, we could establish a joint defensive effort. Over the next several hours, HFY, Rowell, and the human delegation worked on drafting a preliminary proposal. They hammered out guidelines. No further Imperium expansion into Earth territory, a non-aggression pact, resource sharing for advanced research, and a mutual defense clause if the Zen invasion proved imminent. The entire time, HFY felt a mounting awe at the way humanity handled negotiations. Forthright, but also cunning. They offered terms that seemed equitable, yet they clearly retained significant advantage in production capabilities. Still, the Imperium was in no position to quibble. Eventually, HFY transmitted the proposal to the Council. To his amazement, they responded with cautious acceptance. The shock of the Imperium's recent defeat, combined with the looming threat of the Zen, had shaken them. Pride had given way to survival instincts. A week later, in an unprecedented event, a small human diplomatic ship landed on the Imperium's capital world. The official handshake between humans and Vastari leaders occurred in the Grand Citadel, an alien site that left many citizens gaping. Not all Imperium members were pleased. Some staged protests. But overall, it was recognized that forging some alliance might be the only path that could safeguard them from the Zen Dominion. In the months that followed, joint research stations sprang up along the border between Imperium and human territories. Scientists from Earth worked alongside Vastari engineers. Together, they began adapting the Imperium's plasma-based technology with the humans' advanced gravitational manipulation. The result was a new generation of warships co-crewed by both species. Scenes that would have been unimaginable just a short time before became the new normal. Humans instructing Vastari in the intricacies of microjump propulsion, while Vastari taught humans the secrets of organic-based hull regeneration. Commander HFY found himself promoted, ironically, to an ambassadorship. He maintained close contact with Dr. Amina Eddington. Their initial hostility had faded into a mutual respect. Whenever he felt a pang of wounded pride, HFY reminded himself that the cost of not cooperating would have been far worse. Sarah Rowell oversaw the largest cultural exchange program in Imperium history. She arranged for a group of young Imperium scientists to visit Earth. In turn, human researchers visited the capital. Documentaries were made about the historic alliance, as it came to be called. Skeptics on both sides predicted an eventual betrayal. Yet day by day, trust grew. The Zen Dominion continued its march across the galaxy. Reports arrived detailing entire systems reduced to glowing husks. It was said they used biomechanical constructs to harvest resources, obliterating any civilization in their path. Fear spurred the Imperium-Earth alliance to accelerate their cooperation. Factories on Earth switched from building conventional vehicles to mass-producing starship components. Imperium foundries reconfigured to churn out gravitational warp drives. An astonishing synergy developed, merging the best aspects of each race's technology. The day came when the Zen fleets appeared on the far edge of Imperium territory. Early scout ships sent frantic messages. The Zen vessels were colossal, armed with planet-killer beams. They traveled with a swarm of fighter drones that devoured anything in their path. Without hesitation, Imperium and Earth launched a joint defense force. Instead of separate commands, they created an integrated hierarchy. Admiral Yavrin, a respected Imperium officer, joined Admiral Shelby Price of Earth to lead the combined armada. Commander Ithrek served under them as a liaison, while Colonel Holt and Dr. Eddington worked on strategic planning. When the final confrontation began, Ithrek found himself aboard the newly christened warship Unity's Vow, co-captained by a human and a Vastari. From the viewport, he watched as the Zen formations advanced, eerie, geometric vessels that glowed with a sickly green light. The combined Imperium Earth fleet moved to intercept. Ithrek's hearts pounded, recalling the chaos of that first ill-fated invasion of Earth. Yet this time, the two species fought as one. They had practiced months of tactical drills together, merging Earth's creative unpredictability with the Imperium's disciplined formations. As the fleets clashed, the Zen unleashed beams that vaporized ships on contact. But the Alliance vessels proved more agile than the Zen expected, using micro-jumps and gravitational pulses to evade direct hits. Meanwhile, Earth's repurposed technologies hammered the Zen's motherships, while Imperium plasma cannons tore apart the drone swarms. The battle was ferocious. Ships on both sides were lost, yet the synergy of the Alliance gave them an edge. By the time the dust settled, the Zen had been pushed back. Ithrek stood on the bridge, battered and exhausted, as the final Zen cruiser flickered off the scopes, jumping away into deep space. A roar of triumph erupted among the diverse crew. Humans cheered, pumping their fists in the air. Vastari clicked their mandibles in jubilation. For a moment, the alliances and treaties, the grudges and the humiliations were forgotten. All that mattered was survival, and they had achieved it together. In the aftermath, the Imperium Earth Coalition consolidated their newfound partnership. Formal treaties were signed, codifying mutual defense and establishing joint colonies. Humanity had proven that it could be the deadliest foe when provoked, but also a steadfast ally when an external threat emerged. The Imperium, once so certain of its superiority, had learned humility, and in the process discovered a powerful friend. Commander Ithrek often recalled the day he first heard that chilling message, "Stop attacking, or we stop pretending to be civilized." He had dismissed it as empty boasting. Only later did he grasp the deep truth. Humanity had survived countless internal wars, forging a civilization capable of unthinkable destruction if cornered. And yet, by choosing to cooperate, they had forged a future that neither side could have achieved alone. On Earth, the historical record would mark this as a pivotal turning point. The line had been drawn in the cosmic sand when the Imperium attacked, and humanity answered with a final warning. From that crucible of conflict arose a partnership that reshaped the known galaxy. For Ithrek, it was a personal journey from arrogance to open-mindedness, from conqueror to ally. He stood side by side with humans and realized the Imperium would never be the same. Sitting in his ambassadorial office on the Radiance, years later, Ithrek watched a new generation of joint cadets, both Vastari and humans, heading into training. Their uniforms displayed emblems from both civilizations. He leaned back in his chair, remembering how precariously close they'd come to annihilation. He thought of the Council, once so fixated on conquest, now forging trade agreements and scientific exchanges with Earth. He thought of Dr. Eddington, who had extended an olive branch at the height of hostility. And above all, he thought of that iconic sentence that had resonated through the Imperium's proud halls. Earth's final warning: stop attacking, or they would stop pretending to be civilized. In the end, it was that warning which opened the door to a new era, not just for humanity or the Imperium, but for all who would stand together against the ever-hungry void. If the Zen returned, or if another cosmic danger loomed, they would be ready, united by the profound lesson that sometimes, to remain truly civilized, one must have the power and the will to defend it, without hesitation but also without blind aggression. Ithrek closed his eyes, letting the hum of the starship lull his thoughts. Pride, fear, hope, and curiosity intertwined. The humans had taught him that real strength lay not simply in weapons, but in the capacity to choose when to use them and when to restrain them for the greater good. Humanity would always keep that capacity in reserve, perched on the edge of their civilized facade, unassuming yet dangerously potent. They had come perilously close to unleashing it against the Imperium. Instead, they had found a path forward. A single threat-laden sentence had reshaped the Imperium's destiny. It was humbling, it was terrifying, and it was extraordinary. Outside, the stars stretched in an endless tapestry, full of both promise and peril. As a Threk turned to the console, reviewing the day's diplomatic reports and scheduling a meeting with human officials, he reminded himself that the greatest leaps often come from the unlikeliest alliances. And sometimes, the boundaries between civility and devastation were as thin as a single warning.